Over the past few weeks, I've binge-watched one of Britain's most loved sitcoms, Peep Show, a series I didn't realise had such a huge cult following. And after finishing and loving every aspect of the show, I've tasked myself with something that I haven't seen anyone else do on YouTube. And that challenge is to rank every main character from the series, from worst to best. And just to clarify, by main character, I mean they have had to appear more than once and have had to be somewhat involved in one of the show's arcs. So without wasting any more time, let's get started with my list. And kicking things off in spot number 17 at the bottom of the list, I have Megan from Series 9. I just found that when she appeared on screen, I thought she was a little bit boring and lackluster. Perhaps that's a result of her only appearing in the final series, but I feel that her character wasn't fleshed out enough before the ending. I can't really say much more about the last place pick. However, the whole dynamic with Joe and Jez was golden, which does lead me on to spot number 16, Megan and Jez's boyfriend Joe. To be honest, he's on par with Megan for me, but what I think ranks him one spot higher is when Mark watches him and Jez through the camera. I'm just going to leave it at that. But yeah, overall, just an alright character. Swiftly moving on to spot number 16, I have a character that I truly don't like, and that is Elena's girlfriend, Gail. Originally, I had this character placed dead last, but then remembered that she is sort of important in Jez and Elena's story. But oh my god, she is horrible. I just really didn't like her, especially when she works in the Mexican restaurant with Mark. However, I do think Jez went a little bit overboard when he tried to kill her at the end of Series 6. To be honest, she isn't the most horrible character in the show, as we will learn later on in the list. In spot number 15, I have a nice but very underused character, Jez's Series 7 love interest, Zara. Being prominent in one of my favourite Peep Show episodes, The Nether Zone, it is so clear that Zara was never meant for Jez, and I think that's the funniest part of her character, being so unaware of what her lover is actually like. Unfortunately though, there isn't that much else to her. She's quite possibly the most middle-of-the-road bland character on this list. Speaking of middle-of-the-road, in spot number 14 I have Elena. On paper, Elena is a great character. For Jez, she is the perfect love interest, and honestly she's so much more bearable than Gail. But when comparing her to the characters that rank above her, it feels hard to place her anywhere but spot number 14. She is completely self-absorbed, and the fact that she hid her girlfriend from Jeremy just makes her an even worse person. So yeah, not much more to add really, she just isn't my favourite. My next pick may be a little bit controversial, especially by ranking her even higher than Elena. But in spot number 13 I have Mark's sister, Mark Corrigan, who yes, isn't really likeable, and isn't a nice person to Mark, or anyone really. But the episode Sistering in Series 3 is one of my all-time favourite Peep Show episodes. And I find her strange relationship with Jeremy really fun to watch, and I feel she brings out a side in Jeremy that we never really get to see. She's probably his only love interest that is a little bit too full on for him, and with that, subverts Jeremy's normal self. And we see a man who is completely fed up with love, which I find hilarious, and is something that I find more entertaining than his relationship with Elena. So I do think 13th place is quite a reasonable spot to put her in, which is something that can definitely not be said for the next person I'm going to rank. And I'm just going to warn you, spot number 12 is a very controversial pick. One of the show's most important and main character. In spot number 12 I have Sophie Chapman. Please don't shoot me, but oh my god, I really do not like Sophie. I did in the first two series where she was actually bearable, but from Series 4 onwards, oh my god. She was horrible. And I know a lot of that stems from Mark, who is an absolute idiot, but Sophie is just completely messed up. And so is her family. And yeah, to be honest, in the first few series, I didn't mind her at all. I found the whole arc of her being chased by Mark really entertaining, and it served as the main plot point for the first two series, which to me really worked. But don't get me started on post-Series 4 Sophie. Every time she appeared on screen, I was just ready to be annoyed. She was just really angry all the time, which is completely different to how she was at the beginning of the show. One thing I will say though is that in the episodes where Sophie is in hospital giving birth, her anger is definitely justified, especially when Mark goes to the arcade mid-birth. But yeah, this whole scenario is just hilarious, and throughout it I didn't find Sophie all that bad, but we can't overlook everything else that she did. So for that, she has to be this low on the list. Moving down a place to spot number 11, I have probably the biggest idiot in the show, who is by far the most unlikable person, but unfortunately one of the funniest characters, and that is Mark's work partner, Jeff. You might be wondering why I've ranked him above Sophie, but personally it just comes down to his comedic value. The way he antagonises Mark and his expressions are just hilarious, and they make me laugh every time he comes on screen. Jeff and another JLB worker who I haven't mentioned yet are two of the most misogynistic, terrible people in the show, but you can't help laughing at them due to how they articulate themselves around other characters, and due to this outranks every character previously mentioned. Cracking the top 10 is a character who deserved way better, Mark and Jez's next door neighbour, Tony, who mysteriously disappeared at the end of Series 2. For me, Tony was one of the best characters in the first 2 series. Due to disappearing after Jeremy's marriage with Nancy, it remains unclear as to what actually happened to her character. So for that, I can't really say much more, except I really enjoyed the dynamic of her living next to the protagonist. And the party that she hosts in the first episode is brilliant. I just wish they brought her back in the later series, but from what we saw of her, she was a great character. Next up, in spot number 9, is a pretty wholesome character. The co-founder of the Dobby Club, and Mark's nemesis, Gerard, aka the man with the tube up his nose. Honestly, I just feel that Gerard was severely underused, but for the moments that he was on screen, he was absolutely hilarious, especially in contention with Mark. And let's just say I was completely shocked when we found out that he died. It was completely out of the blue, and to be honest, it was probably one of the most unexpected Peep Show moments. But yeah, overall, just a really solid character. Moving on to spot number 8 is another one of Jeremy's love interests, Big Suze, who definitely scores bonus points for having one of the best names in the series. She was definitely one of Jeremy's better love interests, simply because of how posh she was, and how out of pocket the things she would say were. However, when it was revealed that she was in a relationship with Johnson, she did go down in my estimations. If it wasn't for that, she would have been a few spots higher, and to be honest, she was a little bit racist from time to time, which again marks her down. But much like Gerard, a very well-rounded character. Outclassing Big Suze in spot number 7 is who I find to be Jeremy's best girlfriend. Not in terms of the relationship, but in terms of her character, and that is Nancy. I just love the way that she controlled Jez. I thought it was brilliant how whipped he became. Like, he would literally end up doing anything for her, without even thinking about it. The whole episode with Nim as well was just hilarious, and her outlook on love was just bizarre. And it made for a really cool conflict between her and Jez, and so ranks the highest in terms of Jez's love interest. Just missing out on the top 5 is a character that I had no idea would be coming back in the final series. Mark's university girlfriend, April, who definitely holds the title as the most normal Peep Show character, which is probably a testimony as to why her and Mark's relationship never worked out. By giving her that title, you'd probably assume that I think she's a boring character, but to me she's just a huge breath of fresh air, especially in the final series where she just finds out that Mark is a complete nutter. And as well as this, University Challenge is probably in my top 5 Peep Show episodes. I love it. And obviously she's the main driver of the plot of that episode, and for that I just love her character. She's brilliant. But I can't lie, a little bit of me did want her to stay with Mark at the end. But let's be honest, Mark never deserved her. Right, so we're now in the top 5 where every character is going to be the best of the best. And who better to start the top 5 than Alan Johnson himself? Despite being the most horrible character, for me he is tied as the funniest character in the show. His strange relationship with Mark is honestly just comedy gold. His masculine ego and expressions again make him a truly hilarious character. I think it's evident that the writers didn't want us to like Alan Johnson as a person, but quite clearly the fanbase absolutely love him as a character. He has some of the most memeable and funny lines in the whole series, and the way he talks is just unlike anyone else. Overall, I'm pretty sure Alan Johnson is one of every fan's favourite characters. But let me know what you think of him in the comments below, because he might be a bit like Marmite, you either love him or you hate him. In spot number 4 is the best overall love interest in the whole series, Mark's long-term girlfriend, Dobby. Ever since her introduction in the stationery cupboard, I just knew her and Mark were gonna last. They just bonded instantly. It's just a shame that Mark is the way he is, and that he bottled it with her right at the very end. But Dobby is just one of the most genuine and sweetest characters in the show. I just find her really funny, and the science fiction references that she makes are just hilarious. One thing I will say though is that I didn't really like the spark between her and Jeremy. It just felt really out of character to me. But for the most part, everything about Dobby is just spot on. In retrospect, she's just in every episode that I really like, and for that I have to rank her right near the top. I'm pretty sure everyone knows who I've got in my top 3, and to be honest, I don't think I really need to elaborate much on each character, so I'll just keep it really simple. And in third place, I've got Super Hans. I don't really think I need to develop that point, but he's on par with Johnson for me as the funniest Peep Show character, again with many memeable lines and moments. And I'm pretty sure everyone in the fanbase loves this character. And what I find really funny is that at the end, out of him, Mark and Jez, he's the only character that betters himself, which I can only assume no one expected considering how he is. But yeah, I couldn't really rank Super Hans anywhere else, except for in the top 3. What a great character. And now, for the moment everyone has waited for. And if you have made it this far into the video, thank you very much for sticking around. The top 2 was always going to be out of Jeremy and Mark, and to be honest, I did have a tough time distinguishing which one I should put in first place. But in the end, I landed on putting Mark Corrigan up first, and Jeremy Osborne in second place. But honestly, these two characters are just interchangeable. Whilst obviously having the most screen time and the most progressive character arc, I just feel that the inner monologues that these two characters get given place them leagues above all the other characters in the show. I can't really say much more that hasn't been said about these characters before. They're just two of the most well-written characters in British sitcom history, and their warring dynamic throughout the show never fails to make me laugh. But yeah, Mark in first place and Jeremy in second, but take that with a pinch of salt because they are highly interchangeable. And let me know who you prefer in the comments down below. But yeah, there's my complete ranking of every Peep Show character. If I did forget any characters that you feel should be on this list, then please let me know. Hopefully this video wasn't too controversial, and I hope you enjoyed watching. Thanks for sticking around, and I'll see you again sometime. Goodbye.